Department of Homeland Security responding, and the state of Florida responding, well, yeah, there's been no medical emergency. This is not the case. And then all of a sudden, Luis is on the phone on Thursday morning, describing that he just got let out of the hospital. What we had heard from everybody who was in the facility last week was that everyone, like 80% of people, were sick. They had coughs, they had fevers, they had, essentially what you would expect from a COVID type outbreak.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup.
This is Ashley with Status Coup.
On the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio. Please support the leading independent news outlet on the ground,
covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, this is Ashley Bishop with Status Coup. I am joined today by James Hollis, one of the immigration attorneys working with Luis Rivas Velasquez, an immigrant who was detained at Alligator Alcatraz. And thank you so much for being here with us, James. We covered Luis's story here last week, and there's been several new developments since then, which is why we wanted to talk to you today. But before we get to that, I just want to recap his case a little bit for anyone who might have missed it from last week. So very quickly, 38-year-old Luis collapsed last week in one of the tents at Alligator Alcatraz, tent 5 at the facility. After repeatedly asking guards for medical attention, he was complaining of chest pains and just general illness, and reportedly was told by one of the guards that they can't help him. So again, we were talking a little bit before we got started. We have audio of another detainee describing someone inside of Alligator Alcatraz fainting. I'm going to play it for you in just a second. We believe that he's talking about Luis, so I'm going to play it now, and then you can give us your thoughts on the audio and whether or not you think that he's talking about your client.
Too much abuse. So much abuse here, I can't take it anymore. Where are the human resources? It's unbearable here. Now in another area, they fell to the floor. I think they fainted. I don't know. They don't even know how to act because they don't know how to revive someone. They don't know if the person died or not. We're very nervous because we don't know where we are.
So that was, again, just a really quick clip pertaining to who we believe to be your client. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any other information?
Yeah, I mean, it's our understanding that it's Luis that he's talking about as well. And, okay. Eric, who I've been working with, had the opportunity to talk to another detainee who might have been the same person in this call on Thursday evening. Okay. And he basically provided us some more information about like what he was referring to with regard to not being able to revive them, not being able to provide treatment. Essentially, I feel like it's almost like laughable. It's kind of it's so terrible that the detainees essentially saw that he had passed out or lost consciousness and proceeded to try to help him themselves because none of the guards were helping him. So they eventually were able to pull him out to the front of the basically the chain link fence and got the guards to come in. But then they essentially left him on the ground for 30 minutes and it didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. They came up, they kind of checked his pulse. Or they tried to check his pulse. It didn't really seem like they knew what they were doing. At some point, somebody had done chest compressions, and I think it was one of the detainees who was trying to do that. Over the course of a half hour, they did very little to actually give him medical care to check his condition. And then the thing that surprised me the most about the message from the other detainee was that essentially, even as they're bringing in the stretcher to take him out, there's not a sense of urgency. They're walking very slowly. They're walking very slowly out. They get the stretcher. They walk very slowly back in. It's like any, of course, the message from DHS is there wasn't a medical emergency. I'm like, well, it certainly wasn't treated as a medical emergency. So, it certainly raises questions about how they're treating everybody if they're, even when there is a significant, unconscious spell for over 30 minutes, they're taking such a long time to actually get medical care to someone.
I mean, the idea that that's not a medical emergency is that would be counter to the account that we just played, and all of the other accounts, from other people who had witnessed that. And you're suggesting that other detainees were doing chest compressions, trying to provide medical care. I mean, if it was not a medical emergency, providing chest compressions to someone would indicate that they were extraordinarily concerned, and then that person had lost consciousness. That kind of, it blows my mind that they can then say that, oh, we're not treating it as a medical emergency because it wasn't. when you have all of these people trying to provide some kind of medical attention, it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's almost a situation of like impunity with Department of Homeland Security, because they're grading their own work, and they will always seek to minimize something if they can. Over the years, you've seen a number of detainee deaths, and the level of seriousness with which the Department of Homeland Security under either administration takes the care of the people in its facilities is always a bit underwhelming. In this administration, it seems like they're actively putting people in harm's way, and then simply not providing the care that's needed. It's one thing to go through all of the processes that they're going through and trying to move all the people that they're trying to move through removal proceedings, and this sort of increasing camp system that they're using to kick people out of the country. It's just terrible that they're going to do that and still not treat people with dignity, respect, and provide basic healthcare when clearly it's needed.
Yeah. And so, this account that we're, talking about, the audio that we just heard, this was passed along to the partner and sister of Luis. So they were told essentially by other detainees, it sounds like, who were able to reach his family, that he had collapsed in the tent. They thought that he may have died. So his partner and sister, unfortunately, assumed the worst, thought that he had passed away. They both, put out statements on social media, essentially saying, Luis has died. We are just asking that his body be brought back to Venezuela. Another Venezuelan outlet had reported on his death based on those, the secondhand information that the family had received, because apparently ICE did not reach out to them at any point. If they had, the family would not have thought that they had died. So,
well, I guess it's situation normal with the government not responding. My firm, actually, the reason I'm involved, I don't typically do this type of immigration, but our firm was basically contacted by a friend of Luis who was like, "Hey, it's our understanding that he passed away in Alligator Alcatraz," and I sort of saw that come across our call list and was like, "Wait a minute, what?" So okay. I reached out to Eric, and I also reached out to some journalists. And the first message that we received back was via a journalist, and it was the Department of Homeland Security responding, and the state of Florida responding. Well, yeah, there's been no medical emergency. This is not the case. And then we wait for 24 hours, and then all of a sudden, Luis is on the phone on Thursday morning, describing that he just got let out of the hospital and was taken back to the facility. So it's like, again, it's our understanding this happened on Tuesday as well. So Tuesday and then Wednesday, he was in a hospital, and then Thursday he's back at the facility. And it's like, the Department of Homeland Security would prefer for everyone to stop talking about it. So eventually on Thursday, once he contacts us, they release a new statement that says, "Oh yeah, he just fainted." It's like, oh, he just fainted now. So now we've gone from it didn't happen to he's just fainted. So I mean, that is the only communication that has happened to the family, and it was not to the family; it was to a member of the press. And I'd say, generally speaking, this level of communication is common with the Department of Homeland Security and ICE in particular. It has been their practice since I became an immigration lawyer over a decade ago to move people out of where they are typically located as quickly as possible to avoid court challenges, and to basically hold the people incommunicado so that they can facilitate whatever it is that they would like to do without lawyers getting involved. And it's been a strategy over the years, but it just takes on a more concerning. It's more concerning in the current administration because they're doing it to more people, and they're doing it in these facilities that are clearly designed, to be temporary, or at least ideally to be temporary, and not the sort of facilities, at least, that are run by their private prison system.
Yeah, and as you're saying, we were told that Alligator Alcatraz would be a temporary detention center. And there's been reporting coming out over the last, maybe 2 weeks now, of people saying, like, well, actually, like, we've been here for a month. We've been here for at least longer than the 14 days that they're supposed to be in the facility. So that's doesn't sound temporary. There's also all kinds of development that was just halted due to a lawsuit brought by a couple of, I'm sure you know, environmental organizations and the Miccosukee tribe to halt, any continued development for at least a short period of time. I mean, it sounds like they're trying to build a permanent facility here, and people are, they're being held there for longer than 14 days. It's insane. And, to one of the points that you said, Luis was in the hospital, and, they're saying, oh, this was not a medical emergency. ICE is saying that he, not a medical emergency, he just fainted. Based on the statement that you and Eric released, it sounds like he was actually treated for a respiratory infection. And that after he, I believe the chain of events is after he was returned back to Alligator Alcatraz, his medical records were taken from him and not returned.
Yeah, we don't have any medical records from him at the moment. We basically have the report from him that says, I have a fever, I have shortness of breath, I have chest pains, which, every one of us has been through the COVID pandemic. We know sort of how that can progress, and especially in bad conditions, how that can be even more of a problem. But yeah, to my understanding, he still doesn't have his medical records, and I don't know whether he will get those or whether they will be passed along to, the other facilities that he will hopefully go to in the journey back to Venezuela.
Okay, so that kind of brings us somewhat up to date as far as like what our outlet previously reported on. But so there's been several things that have happened since he was returned to Alligator Alcatraz. So what has happened to Luis since then? What else can you tell us about? Again, what has happened to him since he was returned to the facility after being hospitalized?
Sure. Yeah. So we were supposed to hear from him on Thursday evening and did not. And then we got a call on Friday from him saying that he was in El Paso, Texas. So essentially moved him from the middle of Florida to El Paso, Texas. I don't know what means they used for that. I hope it was a plane and that they didn't drive him the whole way. On Saturday, we also heard that his condition was deteriorating. Again, presumably he's not getting regular medical treatment either on the trip or at the new facility, which is another one of these really large tent facilities. It's one of the sort of deportation processing facilities, which sounds quite terrifying, to be honest with you.
If I can interrupt really quickly,
sure.
Who did you hear from that told you that his condition has been deteriorating?
It was from Luis himself. Yeah, it was from Luis himself.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it was basically like a 3-minute phone call in which he said, hey, I'm not doing well. I'm struggling to move. I'm struggling to walk. I can't. Again, shortness of breath, fever, the same types of symptoms, except he continues to be in a place where it's extremely hot and poor conditions inside of a tent.
Right.
So after that happened, the El Paso Fire Department actually was dispatched to the facility. I think it's just an ambulance from the El Paso Fire Department, and tried to get in and provide him with care at the facility. But unfortunately, they were denied entry by the folks at ICE. So we tried to get him medical care in that way, and unfortunately they were all denied entry. And we've not unfortunately heard from him since that time. So basically, since Saturday, he's incommunicado again, and we're not exactly sure what's going on.
That's horrifying. That's horrifying. And the idea that ICE did not allow the firefighters in is kind of crazy. And again, it's like there's a level of lawlessness within these facilities that it just all kind of blows my mind.
Oh, and one of my colleagues sort of said earlier that we would treat animals better than this, and I do think in a lot of ways we would. It's one of these things where they intend to move people very quickly through this facility, and because of that, they're going to cut corners. And one of the corners that they're going to cut is going to be providing sufficient medical care, because the concern is numbers and getting people out, and not necessarily ensuring that everyone is treated, their rights are protected, and that their health is protected while going through this terrible process.
Yeah, and do you have any information about how he was actually transported? I mean, you said, you hope that he was transported on a plane, not a bus. Do we know if he was accompanied by any kind of medical staff after having this like serious medical event?
I'm not. It hasn't been confirmed to me. I highly doubt it, though. It seems to me like they just put him on a bus and got him out of there as quickly as they could. Which, I mean, from one perspective, I'm like, great that he's not in the detainment facility in the swamp. But at the same time, the detainment facility in El Paso is no better. It's just drier and hotter. It's not a good place for someone with a medical condition to be.
No, no. And so from your statement, I believe that it said that Luis had wanted to self-deport. So he had maybe signed the paperwork that's being offered so that he can self-deport, so that he can go back to Venezuela. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, my understanding is he did that before he was actually taken to Alligator Alcatraz. So,
Okay.
the middle of last week or the week before that, essentially, had already signed it and was like, okay, look, I'm willing to go. I'm not gonna fight this in any way. And then that's instead of sending him immediately back to Venezuela, they sent him to Alligator Alcatraz. And I would
So,
say it's generally common. The thing about the deportation machine that America has is that it is bureaucratic in a lot of ways. So they're not immediately going to just be like, okay, well, to depart. And we've seen everything from weeks to months of sitting in ICE custody while they actually figure out how to physically take you and put you on a plane to wherever it is you're going. While his situation is obviously especially terrible. This is something that's happening to a lot of people right now, and a lot of people are saying, "Hey, you can take me, you can remove me. I'm ready to go." Actually, facilitating that is a bit longer of a process, and I think more and more dehumanizing as the sort of tent facilities and the deportation machine gets grinding up in the Trump administration.
yeah, and that kind of goes counter to all of the people who are saying, who have the idea that like, oh, anybody who's at Alligator Alcatraz, they want to be here, right? They had the option to self-deport. They could just leave. It's not that simple. They can't just leave. And even if you, again, choose to self-deport, you're going to wind up in one of these facilities anyway, as you just said. So it's not as simple as people who are there just want to be here. They could just leave if they wanted to. That doesn't seem to
Yeah,
be
it's similar to the concept of like, oh well, if you really wanted to be here, you would try to do it the legal way. It's like, just as there are no legal pathways for a lot of people in the world to be able to come to the United States, the process in the removal machine is a lot more complex and difficult than it's expected to be. Simply communicating with counsel while you're in that machine is very, very, very difficult. The fact that fortunately we're getting the level of communication that we are, and maybe even the fact that the media is looking at his case a little bit in more detail, is providing it with some speed that it wouldn't have otherwise received. But it shouldn't take three lawyers to get somebody health care or protect their legal rights while they're literally already saying, "Hey, yeah, you can put me on a plane. I'm ready to go." It's wild to think that you have
Yeah.
to have so many lawyers just to be able to figure out that you're alive and that something specific happened to you and where you are currently. We Eric and I were sitting there on Friday just entering Luis's information to the ICE detainee locator over and over and over again to try to see if there would be an update to see where he was, since he wasn't able to contact us on Friday. And then all of a sudden, he's still not there. We still can't find him in the detainee locator,
Yeah.
but we found out where he is only because he was able to give us a very brief call.
Well, I'm glad that he was able to reach you guys. And it's again, like, people have this idea, or the way that Alligator Alcatraz specifically was sold to us is that it was going to be this like one-stop shop immigration facility, let's say, where people can be held, processed, and deported from. There's, the airstrip there. That's part of the reason that it was built where it was built. But they don't even have permission at this point to be flying people out of that facility. It's my understanding that nobody has been deported from Alligator Alcatraz at this point. So again, it's like this is not the thing that was sold to us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a marketing spectacle. I think it's a spectacle of cruelty with the idea of telling people, hey, if you do something wrong in the United States or if you violate our immigration laws, we might take you to this, like, essentially gulag in the middle of a swamp that in which you won't receive adequate care, in which you will get fed. At least we think you will, but it's going to be humid, it's going to be hot, it's going to be miserable, and we're not really going to treat you very well. Ultimately, I think it's for the Fox News audience or the One America News Network or whatever to look at and see, hey, look, we're really doing something terrible, and also for people outside of the United States to look at and be like, man, maybe I shouldn't go to the United States right now because if I get arrested by some guy who jumps out at me when I'm at Walmart or something, I might get taken to this terrible facility and God knows what they're going to do with me at that point, or if somebody would be able to find me. I recall the story of somebody basically going through a similar process after coming to the United States as a tourist, and it's like, okay, well,
I was just thinking of that. Yeah, the two brothers from Mexico. There was one brother who he was here. His brother came to visit him on a tourist visa, and he was detained. I mean, it's all really, really great for tourism here, for sure. Really great for tourism and just, generally for morale. Yeah, I mean, everything that you're saying is I don't know. It is horrific. And, on the kind of horror show that we're hearing coming out of this in the statement that you and Eric Lee released, you both alleged that there is a mass outbreak of contagious disease at the facility that's not being talked about. What else can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what we had heard from everybody who was in the facility last week was that everyone, like 80% of people were sick. They had coughs, they had fevers, they had essentially what you would expect from a COVID type outbreak. And I understand that the COVID outbreak in South Florida generally is pretty significant. So it would not be surprising at all for people in cramped conditions like that to be passing along illnesses like that. We obviously COVID has sort of taken a back seat in a lot of ways to a lot of the news, but it's still a problem, and it's particularly a problem when you have confined conditions and lack of medical care, because COVID is very treatable these days, fortunately, thank God, but it still needs to be treated in a lot of cases. And if you have people with bad nutritional situations and who are under a significant amount of stress due to the type of facility that they're in, and who are not receiving quick healthcare. But essentially what we were told is, you're not seeing anybody the same day. It's taken 12 hours for you to get an Advil or something like that. So it's a pretty tough condition to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this same time, we have also heard from other sources that a significant amount of detainees have actually been moved out of Alligator Alcatraz, like Luis, over this just past weekend. Is that something that you've heard? Do you know anything else about this? To me, there's two very significant things that are happening right now. I mean, it seems like a mass outbreak of possibly COVID or some other contagious disease. At the same time, we know that a lot of detainees have been there for longer than the 14 days that they're supposed to be in the facility. And so far, only roughly, as of the last numbers that I saw, roughly only 100 people have actually been deported who were in Alligator Alcatraz. So again, is this something that you've heard? Do you have anything else that you can share about people being potentially moved out of the facility in large numbers over this past weekend?
Honestly, it's the first I've heard of it. But what I typically think with the Department of Homeland Security is that if they're taking an action like that, then it must be worse than we thought. I'm sure they'll come out and say it has nothing to do with any outbreaks or anything. But if anything, I'm thrilled that there was some information that we put out that put some pressure on them to maybe take people and put them in a slightly better situation. If there's an outbreak there and clearly from the reports that we received, the type and quality of medical care just wasn't available and wasn't sufficient. At least if they move them out, then maybe there's a chance that the people actually get some care that they need.
Yeah, yeah, and all of this would be counter to what we've heard from DHS, that they have what is essentially almost being described as like a state-of-the-art medical facility here. It would seem that is very much not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I would take everything they say with a grain of salt. It's like listening to Donald Trump talk about his buildings. They're always the best, and until you actually look at the foundations and realize that something is seriously wrong. The DHS mouthpieces that we have, I think there are a lot of government servants that work at Department of Homeland Security that are trying to do the right thing. I think the people that are politically appointed and the people that are currently running the agency are not those people. I think they're for want of a better term, they're lightweight people who will say yes to whatever Donald Trump wants them to say. They will lie, they will obfuscate, and they will try to market this to their base and not worry about what it actually does to people on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Yeah. And as a final question, in line with what you just said, in your statement with Eric, you guys also said that there are crimes of historic proportion taking place at Alligator Alcatraz. Just as a final wrap up, can you expand on that for viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the worst sort of internment crisis that America's had since World War II. And I think historically it's going to be looked at in a similar way. Like, you can't deny people, thousands and thousands of people rights. You can't pull normal people off the street, and quite frankly, you can't enforce your way out of the immigration challenges that America has. The reason that America has immigration challenges is the way that the law is written and the way that the law has not been changed in 30, 40 years. So, you create an incentive structure every time that you change the law. And we've created an incentive structure that makes it almost impossible for a lot of people to actually get legal status, while essentially the economic conditions in America, need access to cheaper labor, or certain types of labor that aren't prevalent in the United States. So I mean, I think right now there's a lot of momentum behind the Trump administration, and there's a lot of momentum behind everything that they're doing, and I'm not exactly sure why there hasn't been more obstruction and fighting of what's going on. I think that will come at some point, and I suspect that when we get to the end of this, the deprivation of rights that we think is happening now, and that we certainly hear about from some detainees, it's going to become a lot clearer, and I think America will eventually hang its head in shame about this.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think that is.
I know how America can be, though, because when you started talking about sort of the detainment facilities that were being created, I was like, wow, that sounds like what we talked about with Guantanamo Bay back in the Bush administration. It's still around, and in fact, they've been trying to use it as a removal facility as well, which is maddening.
Yeah, that is the comparison that keeps coming to my mind. It sounds like we have, Guantanamo Bay on our shores now. And it's, again, all of this stuff is, I think that you are correct. It is, crimes of historic proportions, and we can only hope that we can, get some momentum moving on this now in the right direction, and that in the future, people will look back on this as an extremely dark mark on our history. I think that is a great place to end it, unless there's anything else that you want to add for viewers, any other information that you would want to provide about any of this.
Oh, I think I'm good. Yeah. I'll check my text messages. Let me see what I'm up to. No, I think I'm good.
We get any real-time updates. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. James Hollis, we appreciate you coming on here and letting us know what's happening with Luis, and I do hope that you'll keep us updated on his case and what's going on with him. It's truly horrific, and again, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the coverage. I think the biggest thing that journalism does in days like this is shining a light on the bad treatment, because without that, then it's just a bunch of lawyers filing cases and screaming into the abyss. And with y'all, stay focused on it, and we certainly appreciate you covering Luis, and his family certainly appreciates it as well.
It is our pleasure. It's our pleasure, and again, for viewers, we will keep everybody updated on what you guys are doing to help Luis. And yeah, thank you again for talking, and hopefully we will hear from you soon.